Welcome to this special edition of the Esri Law Enforcement webinar series, helping law enforcement understand and track the impact of COVID-19. Hello, my name is John Beck, Esri Director of Law Enforcement Solutions, and I'm coming to you live today from the Esri Operations Center in Yucaipa, California, also known as my house. We have some special guests joining us today who I will introduce in a minute, but first I want to talk a bit about the reason we scheduled this webinar. It is, of course, because of the global coronavirus pandemic that we are all facing in these unprecedented times, and I want to take a minute to thank all of you for taking the time to attend today. I know as public safety professionals, you are on the front lines of the fight against COVID-19, so thank you for joining us, and I hope that you find today's webinar valuable. Before we jump into the agenda and meet our guests, I'd like to take a minute to recognize some of the great work that you, the public safety community, is doing around the world. And I think a good place to start is, of course, with this dashboard, which by now I'm sure you are all familiar with, the Johns Hopkins COVID-19 map. It can be seen on every major news program every morning and night and has been the centerpiece of countless briefings that have been held around the world. I think right now it's getting about 1 billion hits per day. And this is as of this morning, the total confirmed COVID-19 cases is 1.5 million. Total deaths are approaching 90,000. It doesn't have any, the dashboard's simple. It's a dark mode map with red circles showing infections by country that have continued to grow and spread over the last couple of months. Doesn't have any fancy models or graphs, just presents total confirmed cases, total deaths, and total recovered. Many of you might also have recognized that this map is an Esri operations dashboard, but this is about one of the many COVID-19 data visualizations that are using maps as the primary way of sharing information about the pandemic. The WHO is also using maps to chart and track and summarize statistics about the virus. Included on this site is a world map of infections, also a graph of confirmed cases and deaths over time, also charting of comparisons of data by world regions, and finally, the highest number of cases by country over time. But maps and dashboards are also helping at the country, state, and local level. This dashboard from Indonesia is taking the same concept as the Johns Hopkins and WHO dashboards, but it's displaying the data at the regional level by showing the progress of the virus in East Java. There are now hundreds of maps like these around the world, and they're helping government agencies document new cases, understand the spread of the virus, and plan their response. But we're also seeing examples from the local law enforcement community, like this one from the Ventura County Sheriff's Office here in California. They're using this dashboard to track confirmed COVID-19 cases at the county level, and also which cities in Ventura have been hardest hit. And also this dashboard from Redlands, California, which is Esri's hometown. This is from Redlands PD, and they're using a dashboard to track crime trends at the community level during the statewide lockdown here. I think what immediately grabs your attention about this dashboard is the dramatic drop in calls for service and property crimes compared to this time last year, but the violent crime numbers have so far remained relatively unchanged. It's going to be interesting to see how COVID-19 affects crime statistics over the long term. So now let's meet today's guests. We are joined today by the President of the National Police Foundation, Mr. Jim Birch, and by Rebecca Harned, the Director of National and Federal at the National Alliance for Public Safety GIS, or NapSig. Thank you both for joining us. Jim and Rebecca are going to discuss their work to create national level reporting and dashboards in the US to help police here understand the impact COVID-19 is having both at the state and the national level. They're going to be helped today by Joyce and Adam, who are going to show us the surveys they've created and how these dashboards work. We're also going to discuss some of the other law enforcement resources that the Police Foundation and NapSig have created and made available to you. And when we're finished with them, we're going to turn it over to Chris Delaney, our law enforcement technical lead, who's going to discuss the many free resources available to your agency from Esri. Finally, we're going to wrap up with some Q&A with our guests. A couple housekeeping items before I turn it over to Jim and Rebecca. Please use the chat window on the right-hand side of your screen to ask questions. We'll answer as many as we can at the end of the webinar. Even if we don't have time to answer your questions in the webinar, we'll follow up with you after we're done. We're also going to be recording this webinar, so that recording will be available probably early next week. And you can share it from there or review it once it's been posted. We're also going to send up a follow-up email after the webinar with links to all of the resources that we're going to discuss today. So with that, let me turn it over to Rebecca and Jim. Welcome to you both. Thanks for joining us today.
Great. Thank you so much, John and Esri, for the opportunity to share with the community some of the great work going on for the first responder community in response to COVID-19. Before I get into some of the specific examples, I just wanted to provide a little bit of background about who the National Alliance for Public Safety GIS Foundation is and how we are here to support you. So as an organization, we are a 501c3 nonprofit established about 15 years ago. Our vision is for a nation of emergency responders and leaders that are equipped with the knowledge and skills in applying technology and data to change the outcomes for survivors. We have over 21,000 members in our network, ranging from public safety leaders across all disciplines of public safety, first responders, and technologists and GIS practitioners that support our community. What is our key message in all of this? We need our first responders, operators, and decision makers to have access to and know how to use the right actionable information at the right time. Next slide, please. So what are we doing to provide that actionable information to support public safety in COVID-19 response? We have a number of different initiatives underway that impact the public safety community and support them that are national in scope and some that are regional. So I'll mention just a few of those today. Over to the left, you'll see a green map. That map is an index of state geospatial resources that are publicly available to the community for every single individual state across the country. So you can easily access this interactive map to click on it and then find exactly those most authoritative geospatial resources for COVID-19 provided by that state. So that is free and publicly available. Additionally, we're supporting a number of public safety associations, which I'll mention in a few minutes, whose impact goes nationwide. Additionally to that, we're supporting a number of local, state, as well as regional solutions that bridge the gap between public health, emergency management, and in many cases, economic development and recovery. So pictured here are two of those examples out of many. To the bottom left, we have some regional solutions for emergency management and public health that support the Colorado North Central region and are also implementing best practices and templates provided by Esri and taking those solutions to the next level to support our decision makers. Additionally, you'll see an example here from Nashua, a business and service self-reporting app. This effort is enabling both emergency management to work together with their local chamber of commerce, their regional planning commission, to support economic development and recovery in the face of COVID-19, and supporting crowdsourcing by the local business community to be able to share in real time what the status of essential businesses and organizations are and what services they are able to provide to the citizens of our communities. And lastly, I have a call for action for all of you that are a part of the geospatial community in support of COVID-19. Currently, we just launched an initiative with NSGIC, the National States Geographic Information Council, ERISA, and NapSig joining forces to develop a nationwide inventory of data feeds on health medical reporting capabilities. So we are asking all of you to help contribute in building out this inventory of data feeds for the nation so we can help to reduce any duplication of reporting information and help to automate and streamline that health medical capability reporting. So you can scan that QR code and contribute. Next, I'd like to share with you what we are doing to support our first responders nationwide. So our greatest focus has been on enabling police, sheriffs, fire, and EMS to leverage the power of GIS to collect and analyze data on personnel impact and PPE supplies nationwide. The approach we're taking and working across police, sheriffs, fire, and EMS encourages a standardized and interoperable approach to common data collection, management, and analysis using the latest technology in GIS supported by Esri. We're equipping decision makers and leaders with reliable data analysis and actionable information that helps to inform and drive decision making. So what was the impetus of this? Well, we immediately saw the opportunity to expand and evolve a solution that the International Association of Fire Chiefs, IAFC, launched at the very early days of COVID-19 response. And we saw the opportunity to expand that for law enforcement. So we worked together with the National Police Foundation and the National Sheriff's Association, who are both eager to lead efforts for our law enforcement community, with NapSig Foundation and Esri providing technical assistance. Next. Great. So through this initiative and through the collaboration of us joining forces across the first responder community, we are able to support consistent solutions in data collection and analysis that are available today for police, sheriffs, fire service, and EMS nationwide. And all of these capabilities are being made available at no cost to the local first responder agencies. And all of the dashboards you see pictured here are publicly available for our first responders to help inform decision making. So to the upper left side, you'll see the example from the Police Foundation. And then the green map on the upper right side is from the National Sheriff's Association. And then at the bottom, you'll see pictured the solution from the International Fire Chiefs Association. And with that, I'd like to hand it over to Mr. Jim Birch from the National Police Foundation. Jim, over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. I appreciate that very much and appreciate all of NapSig's support throughout this effort. I'm Jim Birch. I'm the president of the National Police Foundation. For those of you who don't know the Police Foundation, we've been around for about 50 years. In fact, our 50th anniversary, if you will, is going to be in June of this year. We are not a membership organization. We are an independent, nonpartisan, nonprofit organization. Our mission is very much focused on using science and innovation to drive decision-making and advancement within the policing profession. And we've been focused on that mission for about 50 years. As Rebecca mentioned, I think in a couple of places in her slides, you heard her talk about the importance of actionable information and data-driven decision-making and analytics. And I think for us, our involvement in this really began actually with an email that we received from Esri talking about the ways in which the first responder community is beginning to use the ArcGIS solutions to be able to sort of map out what's happening around the country with COVID-19. That got us thinking. We immediately made a call over to our friends at NapSig who immediately engaged Esri, and we put our heads together and figured out that law enforcement really could use a similar type of dashboard because we were hearing so much from the law enforcement community about uncertainties in terms of how COVID-19 might impact them, or even if it would. Remember, this was back in the very early days of this event, probably back in early February when we first started talking. And at that time, it was unclear if COVID-19 was going to remain something mostly isolated in a certain hotspot, a couple of hotspots around the country, or if it was going to have a more significant impact. And so for us, the chief concern that we had was we need to bring data to this thought process. We need to bring data to this decision-making and to this planning. And if it does begin to spread, we need those agencies who are not yet affected to be able to see how it is impacting the agencies that are being affected. And so we worked together to build a real-time situational awareness tool for law enforcement agencies. As Rebecca pointed out, the beauty of this is it's very much crowdsourced. It's supported by the agencies out in the community. Joyce Iwashita from the National Police Foundation is here with me. She's going to walk you through a little bit more about how this real-time situational awareness tool works. But importantly, one of the things that I want to share with you is we've seen great success from this to date. We've had well over 400 agencies submit data to the dashboard, representing 42 different states around the country, over 97,000 officers represented by those agencies reporting. And I think what's impacted me most is seeing how this dashboard is being used. So we've received outreach from a number of emergency operations centers, fusion centers, and elsewhere asking for the ability to incorporate the dashboard into their EOCs and their briefing operations, because they do find great value in sort of seeing how it is impacting other agencies around the country. I'm also very, very excited. Today we announced a partnership with Axon to raise funding for the purchase of PPE that Axon will be distributing to law enforcement agencies around the country. And why that's relevant here is because as we talk to Axon about who needs PPE, one of the things we shared with them is the data that comes from this dashboard could be used in that process to figure out where the most significant needs are for PPE, or at least where some of the most significant needs are for PPE. And so our understanding is they're going to be using that dashboard to look at some of those issues as they determine how they're going to disperse the PPE that they're purchasing with the funds that are donated. So with that, Joyce, I'm going to turn it over to you to walk through the mechanics of this and show everybody how it works.
Great, thanks, Jim. Hi, everyone. This is Joyce Iwasha with the National Police Foundation. So just walking us through the Law Enforcement COVID-19 Impact Survey and Dashboard. Starting with the survey, as you see here, this was created in Esri's Survey 123 tool, and we are asking respondents to provide updates at least weekly, if not daily, and on the same day and time as possible to try to track the progress of COVID-19 and its impact on law enforcement over time. And so we wanted to be sure to capture some of the background information from agencies, like the type of agency and the state that they are located. We're also asking about the total number of sworn personnel, as well as the number of sworn personnel exposed, not working due to exposure or symptoms, or that have been tested and diagnosed, to be able to calculate percentages of the sworn personnel being impacted. We also wanted to be able to capture current information on personal protective equipment, PPE, and the need for that PPE, as well as projections for that need over time. Now, turning over to the dashboard, once respondents submit their questionnaire form, their data will automatically populate or update data from any previous submissions to show what is on the dashboard here. And so, as you can see, this map is highlighting states where we currently have reporting agencies, and then at the bottom here underneath the map, we are displaying the percentages and numbers of sworn personnel being impacted by this. So for example, in total, respondents have reported that almost 10% of sworn personnel have reported exposure to COVID-19. And we can also include and switch between multiple tabs to be able to see, for example, the total number of reporting agencies to date. The charts in the bottom right are linked to our questions about personal protective equipment. And hovering over them, we can see the number of respondents selecting each answer choice. And here at the top right, we're displaying the top 10 reported exposures by state, as well as a tab for agency type. And in addition, here at the very top, it's possible to filter the results by date that the information was submitted, or by state. So let's try for New York, for example, and that automatically filters out, information for that state throughout the dashboard. And let's try that one more time. So Florida, for example. Or New York. And with that, Rebecca, I will turn it back over to you.
So next we're going to talk a little bit about the work done by the National Sheriff's Association in developing and standing up a similar set of capabilities that build from the successes of the IFC and then certainly of the National Police Foundation. What's important to mention here is that the sheriffs have some unique needs from the standpoint of how they report and what they report and the frequency. So in the case of the National Sheriff's Association effort, there's weekly reporting done by those county sheriffs on that weekly basis. So it's a very bounded reporting process. But what's important here is that they've taken a very similar, consistent, and standardized approach to how they're collecting the data so that it can achieve interoperability and integration with the Police Foundation data so that we can have a whole of nation picture for law enforcement personnel impact and PPE supplies nationwide. And with that, I'd like to ask Adam Fackler with NapSig Foundation to walk us through that solution that the National Sheriff's Association has implemented. Adam, over to you.
Thank you, Rebecca. As Rebecca mentioned, the Sheriff's Association collects a little bit of different metrics as opposed to what is collected by the Police Foundation. And this is primarily because, first off, they like to collect their own information and have their own weekly reports that they send out to all of these different agencies and departments that they are associated with. And we also know that sheriff's departments are often operate at a county level, and they also operate a little bit more than local municipal police departments. They often operate their jails and conduct court security, as well as the day-to-day law enforcement tasks of receiving calls, serving warrants, etc. So how we had to construct the form was asking very similar questions to what the Police Foundation asks in their survey in regards to how many personnel have been exposed to the virus, how many are unable to work because of the virus, etc. But instead of just asking how many personnel within the department, we split it up by how many personnel assigned to a single duty. So we have the personnel assigned to law enforcement, courts, and jail duties. And the NSA also likes to collect information on jail inmates, as it's not really being a widely collected information. And because the county sheriffs already run the jails, it's like to see the trends that are going on in there. So how I kind of put together the survey was instead of just having one really long survey, it's broken up into the different groups. So you can see in the middle, the center group is the law enforcement function, and it's the same exact questions for the court function and the jail function. And there's a little bit different questions for the jail inmates, as there's a few questions in there that also cover jail specific. And using this information, we put together a very similar dashboard to that of the Police Foundation. However, just because all this information is being collected and split up a little bit differently, what we had to do was make several dashboards that cover the law enforcement side, the court security side, etc., and break up those numbers based on that. And we used it, or wrapped it all together using Experience Builder. And every survey you see, or every dashboard, you see here has the same functionality as the Police Foundation. You're able to filter by state. You can click on the charts and filter out all the numbers by there. And the courts and, the jail and the jail inmates will only be showing the information that has been given to them only shows the sheriff's departments that run a jail or have information that are in there. So instead of showing everything, it only shows what's in the information that has been submitted for jails. So right now we're sitting at a little over 400 different sheriff's departments that have been submitting data regularly. And right now this updates as records come in. As I said, the functionality is pretty much the same. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Chris Delaney, who is the law enforcement technical lead with Esri, to talk a little bit more about some of the GIS resources available out to the public and beyond. So Chris.
Thanks a lot, Adam. Good morning or good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And thank you very much to Rebecca, Jim, Joyce, and Adam. The work that NapSig and Police Foundation and the National Sheriff's Association has been doing is really critical work to help citizens law enforcement personnel understand the scope of the COVID epidemic and how it affects and impacts law enforcement, to communicate the needs of our community more effectively to broader citizenry. So what I'd like to do now for a few minutes is talk about specifically some of the work that Esri has done to support the broader GIS community with resources to help you as a GIS professional or an analyst supporting your organization spin up maps and apps quickly to help share information, improve decision support and situational awareness relative to your organization's role in the community-wide response to the COVID epidemic. First and foremost, if you haven't seen it, Esri has one authoritative place for all geographic information. It's the COVID-19 GIS hub. You'll find it at go.esri.com/coronavirus. Here you can find all of the apps that John referenced before, including the Police Foundation and the National Sheriff's Association's apps. You'll find the Johns Hopkins app, and you'll find dashboards and web mapping applications from around the country and around the world that are sharing authoritative information on the extent of the COVID epidemic for the area of interest to you. In addition, there's a variety of data sources, both in terms of data that you have available to you from a kind of COVID case volume perspective, but also important data sets to help you contextualize resources and impact in your community. Things like hospital beds or social media information relative to the COVID-19 epidemic that's been provided by Esri business partners. So if you are currently in the process of building out capacity from a GIS perspective, check out the COVID-19 GIS hub. You will find useful apps and data. And on top of that, we're curating a variety of resources to help you get started and best practices because in addition to just building these apps, one of the challenges that many organizations face with respect to delivering information out to the public, and John alluded to this in the beginning, is that those web mapping applications can get hit pretty hard. Very, very high volumes of traffic. So one of the most important things that we have available on the GIS Hub is best practices resource to help you more effectively build a viral app to ensure that that app stays up and is effectively responsive and performant for you as that app starts to get a lot of web traffic as citizens want to use that app to understand more about what's going on. One of the other things that Esri is currently doing is myself and a whole host of other folks, including John and Brenda on our team, who are both part of this webinar today, are part of the disaster response program that has been activated by Esri. Our role in that program is to help organizations that need to be able to leverage GIS capabilities, but their capacity to do so has been exceeded. And that can mean a variety of different things. Maybe you don't have the software that you need to be able to execute the apps that you want to be able to serve your organization and your community, and you need additional licensing on a temporary basis. Or maybe you need assistance in getting started and building apps, or you need access to data or other forms of technical support that Esri can help you to deliver the kind of capabilities that you need for your organization and your community. If you need help, the disaster response program from Esri is there to support you. There's a form on our website, esri.com/disaster. You can complete that, describe the information that you need, whether it's software or additional technical assistance, and the folks who are part of our disaster response team are there working 24/7 to support you with what you need. You can also contact us directly at disaster_help@esri.com. In particular, one of the things that I want to emphasize for organizations that do not have current licensing or Esri capabilities, but are interested in being able to quickly spin up some new GIS capabilities with ArcGIS technology, we are providing a 6-month complimentary package. So for 6 months, you get for free an ArcGIS online subscription, including 15 creator named user licenses, including insights for ArcGIS. You get a license of ArcGIS Pro Advanced, our desktop software. And as part of your ArcGIS online subscription, you get ArcGIS Hub. Collectively, this gives you the ability to build out your own organizational public-facing open data portals and hub sites to be able to communicate the nature of the problem in your community and your organization's response. And it enables you to build dashboards, web mapping applications, or even go out into the field and capture data on mobile devices if you need to. So it's a complete set of software to get you started with whatever kind of response you are looking to build out for your organization. And on top of that, knowing that not all GIS users are well-versed in our software or familiar even with configuring and building dashboards or other kinds of web mapping applications from scratch, our solutions division has quickly built a whole array of free ArcGIS solutions for public health response and business continuity relative to the COVID-19 epidemic. And that includes ArcGIS Hub templates. Those Hub templates do not require Hub Premium. And if you're not familiar with our solution, ArcGIS solutions, our ArcGIS solutions are simply ready to use configurations of our existing software, dashboards, Survey 123 forms, other web mapping applications, and they're completely ready to use. So you have all of the layers with all of the symbology ready to use, you have the maps, and then you have the apps pre-configured and ready to go. All you have to do is start entering data. So I want to highlight a couple of those very quickly. We have two sets of solutions that we've built over the last 2 to 3 weeks. The first one is called the Coronavirus Response Solution. This is really oriented to help communities and organizations who need to report out to citizens on the status of the epidemic within their community and to help them manage information around testing and treatment. So there's a couple of things that this does. It's going to give you the ability to monitor and track the growth of coronavirus in your community or area. It's going to help you track impact on public places, so statuses of closures and other kinds of essential facilities. It's going to help you track places where people can get testing and treatment, the status of those facilities, so whether that's remote testing sites, clinics, or hospitals. And it's going to enable you to share information out to the public to help citizens become more informed about the scope of the problem in your community. At a high level, we've kind of organized these apps into kind of 3 kind of target users. The first is for health and human services staff in your community. We have 3 apps. First, an app to enable those staff using Survey 123 to capture information on a daily basis or a shift basis about the number of reported cases, confirmed cases, recoveries, deaths in that particular jurisdiction. And then 2 other apps to help manage statuses of various governmental facilities, public places facilities, school districts, and schools, so that you can keep an eye on what is currently open and manage that information as those facilities, their status, open and closed, change over time. And then also to be able to manage the kinds of resources that are available at various testing sites, to capture the location of those testing sites and to be able to update information when that testing site is open, who's able to go, contact information, capacity, if there's a beds question. So these are the kind of 3 main things that enable us to capture data about both the kind of available resources in the community and the volume of cases in the community. And from there, we also have a set of 4 apps that are would be used by citizens for understanding what's available to them in and around their area. So an app to understand where schools are closed and the status of those school closures, to understand where other community facilities are closed, or which now is increasingly the case, what limited set of community facilities are open and when are those facilities open, to help citizens find those medical facilities in their community that they can go to if they have both COVID-19 concerns or other serious concerns that don't involve COVID-19, but they're trying to avoid COVID-19. And then also a app to help citizens find testing sites for coronavirus. And then lastly, for all citizens and for decision makers, a community impact dashboard that is going to enable a quick situational awareness view at a glance for your particular jurisdiction of the impact of the coronavirus on your community. So the number of deaths, number of recoveries, confirmed cases and active cases, and current status on a number of locations that are available for testing, the number of tests that are administered, facilities that are closed, and schools that are closed, and where those locations are closed, with the ability to do some simple filtering, similar to what you've seen in the Police Foundation and the National Sheriff's Association dashboards, to slice and dice that information to get a better understanding of what's open and the impact in the community. And lastly, all of that information wraps up into a hub site. So you can quickly spin up an authoritative source for all coronavirus response information in your community. And that can be available for your citizens to use as a one-stop shop with all of those maps and apps all organized into that one single location. And because this is all run off of ArcGIS Online, all of this data is fully integrated. So all of these apps act off of the same set of underlying data sources. And so the minute that any of that data is updated, school closure information is updated, information about new testing locations, public places, or the new updated case status information for the number of cases within that community, all of that information is available in ArcGIS Online and immediately updates any of the different apps that use that information. So all of the apps work together in real time to support the needs of capturing and managing data from a health and human services perspective, to enable decision makers to have a real-time at-a-glance view, and to help educate the public with the freshest and most authoritative form of information. The second solution that we have available that's just been released is really meant for businesses and other organizations to empower them to have a better understanding on what is happening in their organization with their workforce, to be able to keep the business and the organization running. So at a high level, this is a collection of maps and apps to help you report and monitor on the status of your facilities in your organization, whether that is business locations or whether that is things like police precincts. To understand who is available in your workforce, given that some of your employees may have become sick or unavailable to work, or have other restrictions due to childcare obligations or family care obligations, to be able to see all of that information in a single comprehensive picture, to be able to make on-the-fly real-time decisions, and to be able to communicate information about the actions that you as an organization or business are taking out to your internal customers and your external stakeholders, to help them understand what it is that you're doing to ensure that the lights stay on in your business or in your organization. So again, a series of apps that all work together. In this case, a Survey 123 configuration called Facility Status Report that's going to help you keep track on a daily basis of the number of staff that are currently working in that facility, whether that facility is open or closed, security implications for that facility, the ability to then visualize that information across all of your facilities, whether that's in a single city, county, state, or whether it's across the globe, in a dashboard, and to be able to have a simple app for being able to search for facility status and understand facility status based on certain criteria and proximity to the user. And then the second screenshot that you see down here also shows you the sort of high-level KPI metrics. It's another tab in the facility status dashboard that's going to help decision makers understand what is currently open and available in their organization. Apps to support workforce capacity. So a configuration of Survey 123 to help all of your employees check in. Are you working today? Where are you working? Are you working with anyone? What is your health status? And have that information submitted on a daily basis so that the organization can keep track of who is currently where and what condition they're in. That teams as well, if you're handling this more from the perspective of a line supervisor or a lieutenant or a captain in a particular division, or you're a manager and you need to be able to handle this from a manager level, a Survey 123 to help you kind of keep track of that information. And then again, an optional aspect of this that is a health status check-in if you want to be able to capture that information from your employees to understand who may have symptoms and is otherwise unavailable. And then that information wraps up into a personnel status dashboard that decision makers would have to help them understand the availability of employee resources and impacts to the workforce. All of those things in turn wrap up into their own ArcGIS hub site that you can quickly and easily spin up to be able to have a one-stop shop internally for your workforce to understand what facilities in your organization are open and current status of your fellow employees, as well as being able to post any authoritative information that you want to share from your business or your organization on your organization's response internally to ensuring that the operations of that business or organization are continuing. And just like the other app, this is a complete solution. So it's a system that is updated in real time. Anytime those forms are updated, that information is driving in real time all of the other apps that are part of the system. And the whole thing lives seamlessly in ArcGIS Online. So you're going to have performance, it's living in the public cloud, and you can ensure that it's going to have the uptime that you need to maintain business continuity operations. One other kind of key thing that I wanted to mention, in addition to the solutions and the ArcGIS COVID hub, one other place that you can go to that has kind of the complete listing of all of the Esri resources around coronavirus response is at coronavirus-resources.esri.com. You'll find here all of the things that we've talked about on this webinar and instructions on how you go about deploying those tools to be able to support your organization's needs. And so with that, I'm going to turn it back to John, who's going to talk to us about some additional resources, as well as take a few questions.
Thanks, Chris. So we covered a lot today. If you have follow-up information requests, we're going to share emails with all of us in a minute. But here are resources to get you started, and we're going to send all of these to you, as I mentioned earlier in the webinar, including how to get more information from the Police Foundation, from NapSig, information about the DRP or Disaster Response Program, and also all of the hub and solution templates that Chris just talked about. We got a few questions, so why don't we jump right into those? Chris, I think, yeah, go ahead, one. And Chris, why don't we start with you? I think you already answered this, but where's the best place to get documentation on everything you showed, including information related to ArcGIS Online and Enterprise, and sharing this type of information, health and law enforcement related information?
Sure, thanks, John. So the first place that you're going to want to go is our coronavirus resources page. So if I go back here, I'll just put this up one more time. These getting started resources, coronavirus-resources.esri.com is going to be the place that you want to go to understand how to deploy these solutions relative to your organization. That'll get you access to, if you need the link to our disaster response program, if you need the, want to see what kind of additional data is available to you through our COVID-19 hub, that has all of our information. If you are interested in deploying some of these solutions, you don't have the capacity to do it, please feel free to put in a request for assistance through our disaster response program, and Esri technical experts can help you get started with configuring those solutions to support the needs of your organization or community.
And Chris, just a follow up on that. So we've talked a lot about US response. How do these translate to the rest of the world? Are these available to the rest of the world? And what about other languages?
Sure, so the solutions are available globally. They are in English only. So if you are in a non-English speaking country, you will need to do some translation of some of the English that's in these configurations. But as part of the disaster response program, if you need assistance doing that, our distributors in each country can assist you with any translation needs that you may have or any additional technical needs that you have for your country in your language. So don't be afraid to reach out, and we can put you in touch with the right people to help you adapt these solutions to the language of your particular country.
And when you submit the disaster response request, we'll put you in touch with the local office for your country, so they'll be able to help you get going. Let me ask a question. Let's give this one to Adam. Adam, the data collection surveys seem very similar. Which platform did you use to create the surveys?
Both of these surveys were created on the website of ArcGIS Survey 123. I primarily had it on the website because at the end of the day, with NapSig, our goal is to G-enable these different agencies to be able to create their own forms. We're just kind of the ones that come in and assist, and then at the end of the day, hand it off. So I primarily focused on doing it on the website, just because the web interface is a lot easier to create surveys as opposed to going to Survey 123. So these surveys aren't particularly complicated. They just have a fair amount to them.
And does an agency need to have an Esri or ArcGIS account to participate in the surveys?
No, right now both surveys are public. The NSA survey is only open between Monday and Wednesday every week, just because of their reporting purposes. But both surveys are public, and you can submit information. And you don't need a ArcGIS Online account to do so.
Great, thanks, Adam. So I think we answered most of those questions. There's a few that we'll follow up with afterwards. Again, if you want to contact myself or Chris, we have some contact information. Go ahead to, I think, Chris, as well as Jim and Rebecca's information at the Police Foundation and NapSig. Thank you to our guests for participating today. Great content. Again, we are here to help the community. So if you as the public safety community need any additional resources from Esri, from NapSig, or Police Foundation, don't hesitate to reach out to us. Thank you again for taking the time to join us today. We'll see you on our next regularly scheduled webinar. Be safe, be healthy, and have a good day.